This week on the show, we talk news and Justice League. This is gonna get ugly. Next on Legion of Dads.
Dad's home.
Hi, Dad.
Lord of the manor, king of the castle.
Well, that seems appropriate.
I am a dad.
We are dads.
We are many. We are one. We are the Legion of Dads.
The Legion. Dads.
Hello.
We are the Legion of Dads.
Join us.
The Legion of Dads.
An entire legion.
Great, Dad.
We are the Legion of Dads.
Daddy-o.
From now on, we'll be known as the Legion.
So we are many.
We acknowledge this is an appropriate metaphor. We are Legion.
We are the Legion of Dads.
You are not alone. We are all in this together now.
Hello and welcome to Legion of Dad, the show for the modern dad. We talk movies, comics, video games, and how to be a great dad. I am your host, Wyatt Cagle, and with me I have my co-host, father of two, Kenneth Dupuis. Hey, Kenneth.
Hey, Wyatt. Hey, Legion.
And father of four, we have Richard. Hey, Richard.
Hey, Wyatt.
This week is our news show week, but it is also Justice League. We all saw it, and probably our first Legion of Dad review of a movie that's been out for a few days, because most of the time we can't all get to the movies and see something.
Yeah, that's
this is
right.
the first.
Yeah, we're still waiting on Thor Ragnarok, Wyatt.
Yeah. All right. Well, hey, look, I had a choice, and I chose Justice League.
Yeah, we'll talk about that.
We'll talk about if that was a good choice or a bad choice here in a minute. But first, let's get into the news. Pixar just came out with a teaser trailer for Incredibles 2. The movie The Incredibles, I think, is a favorite of everyone here, all the dads here at Legion of Dads. Still one of my favorite superhero movies by far, but it came out in 2004. So 2004. I want to say 14 because that would make sense, but no, 2004. So we're going on over a decade.
We've gone on so long that obviously they had to like recast the voice of the kid that does Dash because that kid grew up.
Oh yeah.
So
that'll
he's no
be
longer
weird.
Yeah. So it just sounds like a young kid.
Well, Kenneth, talk to me about how do you see Pixar being able, or Disney being able to make a sequel to Incredibles, just because it looks like it takes, because of the teaser, it like happens really quick after The Incredibles 1. Like no time's really passed.
Yeah, I mean, Legion, for those of you that saw the teaser, Jack is kind of the focus of it. And, at the end of the first movie, he had a big sequence and, he's still the same age that he was then. So in this teaser, and, I kind of felt a little let down by the teaser just for the fact that, like, I was thinking, I'm going to see, like, what I've been wanting to wait for, like, I guess it's been
13
like
years,
like
and
13
you get Jack crawling around. And I'm
yeah. But I think that,
I can wait a few more.
Maybe that's a little bit in the spirit of The Incredibles, like not exactly what you thought it was going to be, but still pretty good and still pretty great. And I assuming it's going to pick up right after. Maybe it does a time jump. Who knows? Because we don't know anything else about it.
It'll be about the Underminer.
Oh yeah.
That was funny. A great joke to end on. I like the part.
And that's why that movie so naturally led itself toward a sequel. And that's why I've been disappointed for 13 years that a sequel hasn't come, but finally it's coming. And I'm excited that it's picking up. They could have done it with Dash all grown up. And, that would have been an interesting story, but we're picking up, relatively close to where the first one left off. And that's good enough for me. Let's see it again. I'm ready for a Incredibles 2.
So we all know where we're going to be this summer, 2018, and Incredibles 2.
There's going to be so many superhero movies.
So many. And we had another teaser hit the internet this week. Deadpool 2, releasing June 1st of next year. Really excited to see that. Richard, are you a Deadpool fan?
I really enjoyed Deadpool. it's a superhero movie that is definitely not for kids, but it was hilarious. It was everything that it should have been, and I can't wait for the second one, especially with the addition of Josh Brolin as Cable. He's gonna be no nonsense, all business guy up against Deadpool's shenanigans, and I think it'll be great. When we went to go see Justice League, the trailer for Deadpool 2 played, and it's got Deadpool being Bob Ross painting the pictures, and it's hilarious. It's just,
well, now, is that in the theater like that?
Oh yeah,
the whole thing.
It's like that in the
whole
theater.
thing.
The whole thing.
Oh, whoa!
Yeah.
I didn't know that. I mean, I saw it.
Yeah.
I saw it just on my computer, and I was like, okay, maybe this is like, because see, I think when the first trailer for Deadpool 1 came out, they had something with like Mario Lopez where he like Deadpool smashed him with a light or something, and that wasn't in the theater, so I figured this was like an internet only thing. So that's awesome. So it's like a
yeah. Like VHS, like it had this, it's 4:3. It's not even like 16:9.
Well, kudos
cool.
to Ryan Reynolds, because the way he said when he's naming the colors, and the color names are awesome for the paints.
They're great.
But the white is Betty White. And when he says he's going to get let me just get a little bit of load up my brush with some Betty White. The way he says white is just like Bob Ross, because when Bob Ross, The Joy of Painting, hit Netflix like a year ago, my wife and I like watched some episodes, or when there was nothing going on in the house and we just turn it on because it was like so relaxing. And so
it's super calming.
So
it's like meditation.
I had his voice in my head, and man, he nailed it. It was just great.
And what I love about it is like, I wonder if kids these days get that reference, like a whole trailer to Deadpool that like totally goes over their head. But us, you have to be of a certain age to get the whole Bob Ross thing and really appreciate that whole trailer. And it was great.
Now, Kenneth, do you think that adding Cable is going to be enough to kind of continue the first one? Well,
it's not just Cable. I think they're adding Domino this time.
It's the same bit. So, okay. So you think that expanding, that's going to make it worthwhile for us to visit Deadpool?
Totally.
Again?
I mean, I would have welcomed like an extended cut of Deadpool 1, which there wasn't one, but I think that like I would have just been happy to watch more of the same. And in some ways, I hope that this is like that, but I'm glad that they're not introducing a whole load of cast of completely new characters like they do every time in the X-Men movies, which, I guess it's to help the people like, oh, get excited. Oh, there's a new mutant. Oh, who's this person? We can bring a new actor in. But man, just give me one or two people and focus on, like we're probably going to get into later, focus on character and journey of that character. And so hopefully it'll be awesome. Maybe Cable will actually be a character that, has an arc, and who knows?
Now, Richard, does this trailer give you any comfort that, like Tim Miller, the original director and kind of one of the people that helped really helm the first Deadpool, he left the project, quite a while back. And you've got this new director. Do you feel like it's still going to be that same kind of Deadpool-esque movie that we got in the first one?
I'm sure they're going to do much of the same thing. They've got enough good cred in my book that, I'm going to go see this, because honestly, this trailer, there are flashes of the actual movie.
Yeah, I think it's like
I have no
15
idea.
seconds of the actual movie, isn't it?
Yeah, I have no idea what it's actually about, and I'm still excited to go see it. So, my ticket's already purchased, so it doesn't matter.
But you didn't.
And that's the thing.
But you didn't reserve the seats.
That's the thing is that, of course not. No. I'm going to go to the other theater. Although I did do that with Justice League. I knew I was going to go on Saturday night, and it worked out. Although I did end up like Wyatt, where there was only 15 other people in the theater, and I was like, where is everybody?
Yeah, I was blown away by that.
And,
I was like,
we'll talk about that later.
Okay.
Teaser.
Justice League's opening weekend.
My theater was packed.
What night did you go? Friday?
I went Friday
Thursday?
during the day, like
Oh, wow.
noon.
And I went Friday night, but we're getting ahead of ourselves.
Yes, we are.
So Deadpool 2 looks awesome.
Well, who knows? But, we're still going to buy.
From the microcosms of flashes. If you pause, if you pause on those images, they look cool. Which they're all over the internet. Now, another trailer that I saw in front of Justice League, Rampage. Now, I love Rampage as a video game. Now, it never had much of a storyline that I remember.
But welcome. That's where we are in movie making. You've got
people that brought you Battleship and
Battleship and Rock'em Sock'em
Look,
Robots.
I have a soft spot for both giant monster movies and giant ape movies, so I think this movie looks fun, and it's going to be like a popcorn movie for like a 13-year-old. That's the way I'm looking at it.
But when George falls off the building, does he shrink down into a man in his underpants?
I don't know, but I love the fact that like, I hope the movie is like Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson. Like every 2 minutes, he's just screaming the word George, because that's like kind of what I felt like the trailer was. He's like, George, Twix.
Well, and the fact that it's the same people, same people that brought us San Andreas, does not give me.
I didn't see that.
Hope. Yeah,
it was okay. I mean, San Andreas was, it's exactly what you expected. It was
okay. Well, I guess this is a question because I loathe those type of movies.
Well, hold up. No. Let's back that up.
Hate those disaster movies.
Well,
go ahead.
What do we?
No, go ahead, Richard. Go ahead.
What do you put in that category? Because we're talking about Independence Day. We're talking about. I don't know, but the guy that did this movie, did Independence Day, and I love Independence Day, and that's like the original disaster movie. Well, it's not,
but Independence Day.
This isn't Roland Emmerich, is it?
Yeah, it is.
He's directing Rampage?
Yeah.
Wait, what?
Wait, hold up.
No.
I definitely know it's that great.
No.
But I don't know if it's
This is the guy that directed San Andreas.
But it feels like
No, it's not the same guy. It's not Roland Emmerich.
Wait.
No, I'm pretty sure it's not Roland Emmerich. But
Come on, if we do anything on the show, it's spread misinformation.
Look, I got to say this about it.
Yeah, it's not Roland Emmerich. No.
I still think, like I said, I think it's a popcorn movie for a 13-year-old kid. Like if I was like 10, 11, 12, 13, I'd probably be all about that movie. I won't probably see it in the theater, but I wouldn't hesitate to watch it. I think that.
Boo, I say boo. No, this is just not my. It's fine. It's just not my cup of tea.
Now that I look at this director's filmography, I'm a little concerned. He's done a lot of work with The Rock.
Yes.
Including Journey to the Center of the Earth. And more importantly,
and Cats
and Dogs.
The Revenge.
The Revenge.
Not even the first one.
Captain what?
Cats and Dogs. The Revenge.
Oh my Lord. Okay. Well, he's just taken what he learned from those movies and literally expanding on it, making the animals huge.
Yeah, no. We shouldn't make fun. I would honestly, I would take this guy's filmography. he's a working paid director. Like that's.
I'm gonna walk my previous statements back. We should be concerned. Although it looks good. I mean, it looks like. I mean, this trailer does basically what Pacific Rim did. You get to see giant gorillas, giant crocodiles, or giant reptiles. And,
I think it's also.
Wasn't there a third one?
There's a crocodile,
a monkey,
wolf.
A lizard and a wolf. Okay,
I think it.
Oh, we do see a giant wolf.
I don't remember the wolf from the game. I definitely remember the lizard and the
monkey. It was a giant wolf.
I remember when news of this movie broke like 3 or 4 years ago that like The Rock signed on to the Rampage, and everybody was like, "Wait, I mean, like I played Rampage a lot when I was a kid. Like all the different versions. I remember when like one came out on GameCube that was like nuts." And then I was like,
I thought he was going to be the when the gorilla fell, he turned into the Rock.
I was like, well, what kind of story are you coming up with this? So I think it's more of a kids movie, I guess, but I don't know. I mean, I think it is interesting for, those folks that like didn't maybe get what they wanted out of the last King Kong movie, to have a giant ape run around and tearing apart a city. So they're kind of answering a little bit to that.
Punching buildings, grabbing bathtubs and hamburgers and neon signs, and eating people.
But I wonder why they, I wonder why they named him George, because all I could think about the whole time he's like yelling George was George of the Jungle, like literally.
Or Curious George.
Oh, yeah.
Well, and then when and then when I was watching it, I was like, man, is this like, what was that Warner Brothers cartoon where it was a big red monster and he was like, I'll name you George and I'll love you and pet you and whatever. I was like, is that what this thing
like
is?
Clifford the Big Red Dog?
No, it wasn't Clifford. It's a Warner Brothers cartoon, like Looney Tunes.
Like we always say.
Anyways.
What do we always say about stuff like this, Wyatt?
Never go back. Oh, wait, no. Wait. Wait and see.
We're going to have to wait and see.
Now, that being said, quick question. Have you guys seen Battleship?
Oh, no, I did not see that.
I've seen the TV cut of it, like on TNT.
And I saw it in theaters.
Good Lord, no.
It's utter garbage.
It's garbage with this weird tribute to the military in the middle of it, or the veterans in the middle of it.
Yeah.
Like,
oh yeah, when the old guys
they're
come
like,
back
yeah,
and
we'll defeat them. Like they
with World War II technology.
With World War II technology, they're going to come and
that's been put in a museum, which I'm kind of like, you can't do that.
These veterans appear on an old battleship, like the Field of Dreams. Like they just come out of the corn, and yeah, it's weird.
It's bizarre. It's bizarre. Well, but keeping with our video game theme, Hitman is coming to Hulu. Hulu has announced that they are commissioning a new series to come to Hulu based on the video game series Hitman. Are you guys a fan of the Hitman video games at all?
I've never played any of them.
I'm aware of them. You know, they've made two attempts, maybe more.
They've made two movie attempts.
I know there's Agent 47 or something.
Right. I mean, I'm actually a big fan of the video game series because I like, it was one of the first ones that gave you almost like not an open world, but just an open objective where, you have to assassinate this
Any
guy.
way you want to do it.
And there's 12 ways to do it. And usually it would be me trying one way and totally screwing it up. But whenever a plan actually, whenever I could plan something out and then actually accomplish that plan, there was a lot of satisfaction to it. So it was always kind of an interesting IP for me. Like,
who owns this? Because this won't die. Like, why?
I think it's common.
Like,
it's what do they call that when it's just nobody owns it?
Oh no!
It's not in public.
It's public domain.
Well, I mean, IO Interactive is the franchise holder.
Oh,
that's
yeah.
the company that makes the video games. Now, if it was just Hulu coming out, I'd be like, okay, whatever. They're just making some knockoff Hitman, whatever. It doesn't matter. But they have brought in the writer of the John Wick movies, Derek Kolstad. They've brought him in as executive producer, and he's going to be writing the show. And then Hulu has come out and said that they want this to be a tentpole show for them, and they want to put as much behind it as they did like The Handmaid's Tale.
Yeah.
So
that
means that they want to push some quality. The weird thing is that they said that they also want to stick to the Agent 47. That's the main character of the Hitman shows. Like that storyline and that origin from the games. And I'm kind of like,
isn't he the only one?
Well, if I remember correctly, it's this really convoluted Illuminati kind of secret society kind of stuff where there's clones and other agents, and it's like bonkers so far that I'm like, I don't care about all this. The only thing I care about is getting, is assassinating people in fun and interesting ways.
I know they just bring on the writer of John Wick, but since they're saying that and they're using the words like we got this guy from this movie, maybe they're taking some kind of not trying to make it like John Wick in terms of how it looks and feels and all that. But if the action is anything like John Wick, which it could be on a TV budget, maybe, I don't know, but that could be cool. That could be really cool to get a kind of mini John Wick experience on the small screen. So you piqued my interest.
Did any of you guys see Agent 47 or whatever
the new one with the newish one? The villain from Deadpool as the main guy?
I don't even know.
I never saw it.
Who was the bad guy? Okay. Yeah, I didn't see it. I have Hitman, the original, because iTunes screwed up sometime like 15 years ago and gave it free to everybody. And I downloaded it whenever that was.
Well, you need to go watch it again.
Well, funny enough, the director of John Wick is also directing Deadpool 2. Ooh. So that's an interesting connection. So just wanted to throw that out there.
That is interesting.
One of the directors.
Yeah. Yeah, one of the directors. They were a directing team.
Yeah.
But,
now, isn't the guy that's directing Deadpool 2 was actually Keanu Reeves' stunt double for years? Like, if you ever watch any of the behind the scenes of the Matrix series, he's the guy that did all the super dangerous stuff. Like when they're throwing Neo through the walls, there's this guy that looks just like Keanu Reeves at the time. And then he hurt himself pretty bad. So then Keanu had to step in. And so that's why I recognized him when I saw a picture of him. And I was like, that's the dude from the Matrix documentaries.
Right. Yeah, because he's actually uncredited as a director, but then he did Atomic Blonde, which I haven't seen yet, but it looks amazing.
It's on Blu-ray. I saw it in Target.
Love me some Charlize.
I want to see it. Exactly. But I wanted to go see that in theater. I just never.
Mr. F.
Hello, Charlize.
I love a good assassin hitman movie. I think that those are fun, and I am excited to have the writer from John Wick, because that is, if you just describe John Wick, it's a bland sounding premise, but the execution is so good that it's darn entertaining. So
did y'all see John Wick too?
Yeah.
I have it on Blu-ray, and I haven't had a night that I could watch it without a 4-year-old on my lap.
Yeah.
I think I did, but I have no recollection of that movie. I remember John Wick 1. Have y'all seen The Equalizer?
John Wick 2 starts off where he's it starts off directly after John Wick 1, and he's like, I want my car. And he just basically kills 45 dudes to get his car. From the guy that's the devil in Constantine. The guy that's the Russian guy that
generic Russian guy.
One of the Russian guys in every holiday.
Number two,
there's 2 or 3 of them.
It's Boris the Bullet Dodger.
Yes.
That guy. And,
yes.
I don't know the third one.
But this has definitely piqued my interest, and that story probably there's a reason why they did that, and it worked. The reason they said this guy from John Wick. Hey, okay, let's do this. Maybe Hitman, yeah,
kind of son. All right, well, that's the news for this week.
Hold up. Let me do a rude interruption that give you an edit point.
Okay.
Hey, can we do a follow-up story to something we talked about previously? Did we talk about that? I know we talked about that Lord of the Rings might be coming to Amazon. Did we talk about that it is coming to Amazon?
Yeah, and that they paid straight up before any other cost. They paid the Tolkien estate $200 million just for the rights.
Yeah, it's happening. Yeah. Just as a follow-up, it's happening.
What are you doing? We have a plan. We're breaking the rules.
Also, we need
a follow-up section.
They also stated that the show is going to take place in between the books or something. Maybe
It's a Rogue
Yeah,
One
like I
style.
think before The Hobbit, and I mean before
Everyone
Fellowship of the
dies.
Rings, and after The Hobbit, or I forget how they stated it, but that's the feeling I got.
Oh,
So it's not going to be a continuation of the One Ring saga.
Or it may
It's
be like
more
a
the-
side cool, whatever. Like, I don't know. Who knows? Who knows what they're thinking? I don't.
be more of the necromancer and the white orc and Legolas defying physics.
Yeah.
Well, it should be interesting to see what they come up with. Now let's talk about something we saw this weekend. Justice League. That's what we're all really here for. And let's start off with spoiler-free zone real quick. Richard.
Go on.
Richard, if somebody is wants to go see Justice League or is on the fence, what do you say to them? Is this something that, yes, go out, run out and see it? Is it no, wait for it to rent it, or avoid it at all cost?
Here's
What's your
my
50,000 foot view opinion of it?
my opinion is tainted and biased because I am a DC fanboy. I got hooked as a boy with the death of Superman, and I have been DC all the way. Going into this, I had high expectations. You know, Marvel's been setting up huge stakes. This was going to be DC's answer to the Avengers. That being said, I have a very biased opinion. My opinion may not be that of the average moviegoer. My wife, I took my wife to this. She enjoyed it. She had a great time. She said it was entertaining. Me being a DC fanboy, I didn't care for this movie. I just didn't care for it. I didn't hate it like I hate Man of Steel. I just didn't care for it. A lot of this movie is shot on green screen. A lot of it looks really cheap. It looks to me like one of those YouTube, like, what do they call that? Like a fan film. You could watch any of these scenes and it would look just like somebody's fan film of, you know, The Flash and Batman and Wonder Woman and Aquaman. I mean, so many of these shots were on a green screen or the CG just wasn't there. Now that has nothing to do with the story, but the story.
We'll get into that in spoilers.
I think it has to do with the pacing because it takes you out of it. It takes you, you're like, oh, whoa, what the hell is that?
There were a lot of things that took me out of it. So once the movie started, it's jumping all over the place. I mean, we're going from Gotham to Themyscira to Metropolis we're bouncing all over the place. And
get back to this guy on the street you're talking to, though.
He's standing in line. Do you tell him?
This is the spoiler.
Get out now.
Well, okay.
We're still spoiler free because I want to get your opinion too, Kenneth.
Okay, so if I'm giving anybody advice, I would say go see Thor Ragnarok.
Okay. Still go to the movies. Just don't go to
the movies. Like I'd be calling Wyatt on the phone. I'd be like, dude, get out of line.
Yeah. This is an ultraviolet situation.
It's not an ultraviolet situation. But to me, this movie was so bland. Go see Thor Ragnarok.
Right. So when I say ultraviolet situation, the story is that I was in line for Ultraviolet. Richard had seen it earlier that day. This is the movie with...
I'd seen about 10 minutes of it.
It was the one with like Mila Jovovich. And anyway, you had seen it before and you had called me and you're like, have you seen it yet? And I was like, no, I'm actually in line. And he's like, get out of line now. So it became a Jason Bourne movie where I just like look around like somebody's following me. I just get out of line and people are like, what's wrong with him? I get in my car and I drive away.
I've sat through plenty of bad movie. Ultraviolet's the only one that I couldn't take it anymore, laughed at, and walked out of. And then asked for my money back. Was like, listen, this this is bad. Like,
I'm embarrassed. You're embarrassed. Let's just give me my money back and let's just call it let's call it a day.
I saw The Lake House. I mean, there have been plenty of movies that I have just sat.
God.
I know that I have just sat through. Like, all right, I paid you my money. I'm here to watch this movie. Ultraviolet, I walked out of and requested my money back. And then told Wyatt to immediately get out of line.
You're the reason that movie tanked.
I am not the reason that movie tanked.
You called everybody you knew.
All right, so Kenneth, same guy walks up to you.
Okay.
He's in line. Your best friend's in line to go see this. Do you call him and say, yes, buy tickets, buy 2 tickets? Do you say, no, wait for it to rent it? Or you say, get out of line, run away from this, never watch this?
Yeah, I mean, my recommendation for that would be to immediately ask that person or my friend if they've seen Man of Steel, if they've seen Batman v Superman, and what their opinion
or Wonder Woman,
what their opinions of those movies were. If they hated those movies, I'd tell them not to waste their time. Because if you're expecting to see something different than those, you're not going to see something too terribly different.
But the thing is, I hated those. Like, there are points of those movies that I hate, but I think there are still some redeeming like shots, and there's some cool things to take away from those movies.
I think
I didn't feel that about this movie. This movie, I was like, meh.
I think this movie does have some redeeming qualities, but to me, it did. If you don't like those other movies with Batman, Wonder Woman, and Superman, don't bother. I do think that it has some redeeming qualities in terms of not the characters themselves, in terms of the big scope of who they actually are in the consciousness of humanity, but in terms of answering to what's come before it and kind of almost backpedaling a little bit. And trying to like course correct some of the feelings that
make up
based on feedback they got from those movies. They did try.
And there's a definitely.
I would tell that.
We've talked a lot on the show.
It is.
I would tell that guy, like, look, did you like those other movies? And if he said yes, I did like those movies, I'm like, well, go right ahead, go see this. You'll probably love this one. Then, if you liked those movies, you'll probably love this one, because I do think that this movie is, in some ways, better than those other two. I think Man of Steel's VFX have not been surpassed in these DC movies yet, and that was like 4 years ago. The VFX in that movie are better than like Batman v Superman and this movie. But some of the characters that you know from those other two movies are done better in this one in some ways. More aligned with what some of the fans wanted. And
one of the things you've talked about previously that we joke about often is that, Wyatt and I quote the hope aspect of Man of Steel, and that this movie kind of tries to build some of that rapport that we so often joke about.
Well, they comment on it. They
do. I mean, they straight up
it's in the first 30
the movie starts out.
So
they say it directly at you.
I don't know what your plan was here, Wyatt, but maybe we could talk about, because we're obviously going to talk about some things we didn't like a lot.
Oh, as soon as we hit spoiler zone, we're going to go scene by scene.
Well, why don't we just talk about first some things that we thought were good, and then go into the bad, because I think the bad outweighs the good.
Wait, I can do it. Yeah, I can do mine real fast.
Well, hold on. So,
all right, yeah, Wyatt, do your part.
I think that it's definitely like a rental. Like, I think that it's worth seeing. If you're just again a popcorn movie, it moves.
Man,
I really think that
I wouldn't pay money for this. Like, if it's on Netflix, if it's part of something I'm already subscribing to, great. But I think it's worth
a rental, like a $3 or $4 rental from like a Red Box or something like that. I think that that's worth for a Saturday night.
Yeah,
but
$1.
But it's not. But yeah, no, I don't necessarily think that I would go see it in the movie theater. And to a lot of what you guys said, of just like the visual effects don't really hold up in some instances. Now I will say, like, I looked at Henry Cavill's lip most of the movie, looking for that,
and like every time. And that was the thing, is that I knew about it.
I didn't notice it, but I was looking for it, and I never really saw it.
Oh man, I felt even that first shot on the cell phone, like I think was almost intentionally on the cell phone and like degraded so that it could hide the fact that his lip, and there was a lot of see every time he was on the screen. I was like, all right, is this original shot, or is this? So the story is that Henry Cavill has been shooting. He's in Mission Impossible, and in Mission Impossible, he has a mustache for a different company. Well, this different company, Paramount or whoever it was, and Warner Brothers was like, hey, we need him to come back and do reshoots. Well, Paramount was like, no.
Well, not only
shave
that,
his
that's
mustache.
not the extent of it. And I mean, I read some posts from a guy that worked with or friends with some of the VFX guys that worked on fixing the mustache. And the way it worked out is not only did Paramount say no, that what initially happened is Warner Brothers said, look, it's much easier to add.
Yeah, like obviously,
it's much easier to add a mustache than subtract one. So what if he shaves, and then Warner Brothers will foot the bill for all the shots that Paramount needs to add the mustache back into Mission Impossible or whatever. Paramount was like, wow, no, he's under contract. He doesn't have to shave. He's not going to. So, that's where we ended up.
Now, and my wife didn't notice, but I mean, every scene he's in, I'm analyzing his like upper lip, and a lot of the times it looks real creepy.
I mean, I was looking at it and I really didn't notice it. And I maybe
the only time
maybe I was in a much better frame of reference for this movie, because I didn't find this movie as objectionable. I guess as maybe the both of you did.
No, I don't. I don't find it that objectionable. I like I texted you guys when I got out of it. It started meh, but it left me with a good taste in my mouth when I finished it. As what I am, the experiences that because I was expecting it to be trash.
This is no Avengers.
Well, no. This is definitely no Avengers. And I guess maybe that was my thing. I was expecting just an utter train wreck, and I got like. I told my wife, I was like, yeah, I was expecting a train wreck, and I got like a fender bender, so I feel like I'm good.
That's lower expectations.
It does go to show that, like, I think, like, I mean, I didn't do the math, but it felt like 90% of the Superman stuff that was in the film had the mustache takeaway on it. So that goes to show, like, some of
like all that's
not maybe like 75%. Yeah. So all that was just reshoots. So it makes me wonder how was his character presented before the reshoots? And maybe that's what some of the talk they were talking about. But you got to think that mustache stuff was done in like a 3-month period. Like, and this VFX guy was saying that, like, normally if a company came and they weren't as big as WB, like WB touted it like, we need to make this happen. They went to all these VFX companies to make it happen in time over the 3-month period, because that was a tremendous overtaking to get that, like, basically rebuild his face in CG. And
that's just so like
they
crazy.
Wanted, like, this guy was saying they should have pushed back the movie. They should have just pushed back the movie. To do it.
But honestly, guys, like, I don't think that. I mean, I think that it passed. I mean,
did,
it's not
but
great,
what made me
passed.
think about it was, okay, like, I can tell when this is happening, and it's taken me out of it just enough for me to be like, something's going on here. I don't know quite what.
But really, if the story and the directing and everything else was firing on all cylinders,
it wouldn't have mattered.
That wouldn't have mattered. You would have seen past that. So there's more of an issue.
All of this is indicative of the other problem, or one of the other problems, is that like the difference between Zack Snyder's original shoots and Joss Whedon's reshoots,
night and day,
were like, that was also jerking me out of the movie. Like every slow-mo shot you knew was Zack Snyder, and then every like funny quip that was shot against a blue screen was obviously like Joss Whedon, like, hey, let's add something funny. The Flash said something funny here. And I was like, this is just,
I don't think all of the Flashes,
walls.
every single bit of the Flash's funny stuff was,
and it wasn't all him. I mean, sometimes it was Aquaman
but not only that, I think it has to do with like, you can tell in terms of the post-production and the editing that, you know, the editor they had sat and edited Zach's movie, and it was the same kind of tone, probably more lined up with BVS. And then when you come in and you start adding these jokes in, it's not the same kind of style of editing. I mean, Marvel's got that down. They know
it was weird. Like even the comedy had this weird.
I remember
timing to
watching the joke. Like I thought some of the jokes were actually good for the character, and you know they don't. But they didn't.
None of them
didn't
land. For me. None of them.
Some of them, but they didn't land.
None.
I think some
they
of them
didn't land like they did in some of the trailers, though. And I think that all has to do with
and that was another
editing.
thing is that the trailer ruined like a majority of the movie. Like everything that was funny wasn't funny anymore. You know, what's your superpower? Yes, I saw it. Like, they ran away. They always do that. Yeah, I saw that. Like,
what's your superpower? I'm rich.
They run away. They always do that. It didn't work in the movie for me. Not because I'd already seen it, but because like the way it was edited, there was no
Zack
breathing
Snyder
room
effect?
to enjoy the joke. In the trailer, I was laughing my ass off when he said that. But so
yeah. Well, Zack Snyder makes a good trailer.
Comedy is such a difficult thing to have because it needs to be shot and played, especially on set. Like it's actually kind of hard to refine comedy in the edit. It really has to be on set. It has to be funny on set, and then you can amplify it in the edit. It's a lot harder to take something that's not funny or to take something that it's like, okay, well, let's inject a joke here, like you would just a line of like a line of information. It doesn't really work the same
for as much news stories as we got about how Joss Whedon is still interjecting Zack Snyder's vision and all of this kind of stuff, you can still tell the difference that like Joss was the one and Warner Brothers were the ones that were making the final edit on the picture. And you could tell there's a complete tonal shift in the way they edit it versus the way it was conceived. And that's what I think is the biggest fault of this movie, is that I think some of the scenes that Joss wrote in, while they are good scenes, stand alone by themselves. And I say this about a lot of the picture, that a lot of the scenes, if they were just a self-contained scene and you just watched it, it would probably be pretty good, or you'd think it was better than it actually is. Yeah. But how it bounces around and how it fits into the movie. Like, I think that the last third of the movie is way more successful than the first 2/3. I thought the movie continuously got better. I
don't know. I didn't
first
even care
third of
at
the
end.
movie. God, it felt like if I have to watch another extreme wide, if I have to watch another extreme wide shot with a crane back to back to back to back to introduce me to where I am, I'm going to blow my head off. This was the first movie that I thought of ever saying this, that I was like, man, they really could have used some titles on the bottom of the screen to just say where we are.
And they didn't.
Gotham.
Now, I have to give them some
Gotham
props
City
that they
Police
didn't,
Department.
Like, well, could you imagine it just being like Gotham, Metropolis? Like,
if they had done something like that, they could have almost, like, if they had done something like Gotham Police Department, you know, so and so time, they could have been working down to this time as a part of the movie. Like, we've only got so much time to get the team together before something's going to go down. And if we don't do it in time, we're not going to be able to save the Earth. And that's why I felt like the villain was forgettable, that it didn't really matter if they won or not. But I want to talk about some of the good things first.
Spoiler
alert. Superman's in this movie.
Surprise. Okay, so Richard, give us your positives.
Sticking to positives only.
Okay, my positives. Get ready. Prepare yourselves for my 2 positives.
Number one.
Number 1 is the Batman 89 and Superman, John Williams Superman theme.
Totally,
make
yeah.
subtle appearances.
Yeah, I heard them both. Yep.
Totally dug that.
Yep.
That was cool.
His name was Robert Paulson.
Thing 2 that... Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah, who was that guy?
I don't
was
know.
he Scarecrow?
No.
Probably not, but yeah. Because he kept talking about fear.
But that's what he was saying, that the parademons are attracted to fear.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
We'll talk about that scene.
Number 2, the other thing I loved was that they really brightened up Superman's
Totally,
suit.
yes.
That the colors
from frame
were
1.
kicked up.
Frame 1, I was like, ooh.
Like it was blue and it wasn't like
maroon and like midnight blue.
Or just dark and like brooding Superman, like sad. This was finally bright and shiny Superman.
And it does a lot. It makes him stand out, which he should.
It did.
Which is the whole point.
Those are the out of that 2 hour and 15 minute, those 2 things are what I liked about
wow.
it.
Okay. Whoa. Yikes.
All right, well, Kenneth, maybe you have a few more.
And I love Superman, and those are the 2 things I liked about it.
Okay.
What was your positives, Kenneth?
Okay. I don't have a list in front of me. I didn't make a list, but I'm just going off of the list that's in my mind. I enjoyed the first scene with Batman in terms of how Batman moved around, and like it was dark at Gotham. It was Batman jump around fighting a dude with a gun. And I thought that was really cool because it was a little less brutal than we saw in Batman v Superman. And it was a little more of Batman taking on a guy one-on-one and jumping around the water tower. And I just thought that was a really cool sequence to introduce us back to Batman. And I didn't think it was like overly dark either. Which I think some of the stuff in BVS is overly dark. Like he's just blowing dudes away with this huge gun.
He murders so many people.
So I thought that was a great.
And like one of the worst ones is like when he uses the Batmobile and he totally just smushes a guy in a truck.
He totally kills like 3 guys.
So awful.
Or when he what does he do? He catches that car with his car and then drags it behind him. And those guys are just liquefied. Like there's no way.
Going on to like, okay, I'm on the first act of the movie, the first third where we're introducing everything. Like I said before, I think a lot of the scenes, like if you just watch the scenes themselves, are pretty good. The scene where the Amazonians are trying to keep the mother box away from Steppenwolf, while it was kind of edited oddly in terms of where it fit in and how, like, what the purpose of it was. I thought it was a really fun ride, how the Amazons were trying to keep the mother box away from them. I don't.
They were doing some cool things with arrows.
Like that was really cool.
Yeah.
Like I don't think it really even mattered though. I mean, like he could have just probably used his axe to smash through the wall of the temple, and he was gonna.
They need a car.
He was gonna get it either way. But for the most part, I thought the way that they introduced each one of the characters into the story, not in terms of how it was edited in, but in terms of the scenes of those characters, like seeing them either again or for the first time, worked for the character of like introducing us to that character and where they stand in the world right now. The Wonder Woman scene where she's taking down the guys, and like I thought it was awesome when he was firing the machine gun and she's blocking all the bullets. I mean, that was making Wonder Woman even more formidable. Flash too, with his scene with his dad, it wasn't about his powers, it was about who he was. I thought that was
fine, but if you've seen Flash, you've seen that scene. Like,
but
five
But if you
times
haven't,
already.
you haven't. And
I know, if you haven't.
I still stand behind that. I think that Jason Momoa is a pretty good Aquaman. They didn't take it to where I wanted them to. I wanted them to take it to like almost like a Thor style. Like he's this otherworldly man out of water, like literally. And but his character for the most part felt really bland to me. He didn't have an arc where I thought Wonder Woman had an arc.
He was just eye candy.
And her growth through the picture I thought was good.
And if they made one more joke about talking to fish, I just
her growth through the movie was pretty good. Batman's growth about like realizing that he needed Superman because he's not enough. He can't do this forever. I thought that was good. Basically, the characters we've seen
was that his
before.
arc? I totally missed that.
Well, that's
well, and I did like the fact that he realizes the mistake he made in Batman v Superman,
Yes.
like that maybe he caused this. If there was a 1% chance, we need to take him down.
He always mentions
Like,
percentages. This Bruce
'cause
Wayne,
in
this Batman.
In this one, it's like if there's even a fraction of percent this will work, we should do it.
And so exactly,
you're
it's a
an
callback to Batman.
extremist,
They flip it. Yeah. What happened to that?
Okay, so continuing on with some things I thought were good, despite the CG, some of the CG, not all of it. The scene where the team's taking down, rescuing the hostages, I thought that was pretty a good display of like all the characters' powers and what they had to offer the team. But that was pretty much for me. After that scene was when the movie starts to pick up, which is pretty much when they resurrected Superman. Like I thought the scene where Superman comes back was probably to me the most exciting scene in the movie in terms of like I don't know what's going to happen. It didn't feel predictable to me. Like I didn't think I knew what was going to happen, but like,
because who knew? 'Cause,
yeah. Well,
Cyborg doesn't even know what's going to happen.
No, but I mean, like you all know at the end of when you're watching them fight the bad guy that they're gonna win. But this movie, I didn't know what was going to happen. Even though I knew Superman was coming back as Superman, I was like, "Dear God, how are they going to get there?" And he's got to fight all the Justice League and the thing where Superman looks over at the Flash and like the Zack Snyder slow mo.
That was fun. That was fun.
A nice
that was
little touch.
great little moment.
Like the Flash realizing that this guy's fast too.
Yeah, and I have to say, man, that scene where Clark at that point, or whatever you want to call him, picks up Batman, and he says, you can't let me live and you can't let me die. Tell me, do you bleed? I was like, that was definitely a Joss Whedon thing. Maybe not. I don't know. But
I think all the Superman coming back was Whedon.
I don't know, because I don't think that scene suffered from the mustache gate.
I think it might have.
Well, maybe a touch of it, but like most of it.
The only one that I didn't notice the mustache thing on was in Kansas.
No, the wide shot in Kansas where they're like in silhouetted and super wide.
Well, it was wide shot.
Yeah, but that was all new. You could tell like that. He's got the lip thing there too. But
I must have had a better print or something, because I could not see this at all.
Wait, did you see this in IMAX?
No, I saw it in XD.
Oh, XD.
I saw it in IMAX.
Okay, so continuing on with I thought was good. I do agree with Richard that I loved the Superman suit this time around. It's got some subtle variations, even more detail in the S and all the texture, but the colors were popped. Now I don't know if that's the suit. I don't know if that's color correction, but that stood out to me. I did really, really enjoy Superman in this film. It felt like the character that was a little more aligned to Superman I wanted to see. Like the Superman that has fun being Superman because he enjoys protecting people. I loved the part in the third act of the movie where they're fighting Steppenwolf. Superman shows up and it completely changes the game a little bit for him. But it's like he comes in and starts whipping Steppenwolf's ass. And then it cuts at one point, and it's like Superman hears people in distress and he just leaves the battle. Like, you guys got this for a minute. I got to go help some people, you know.
I guess, but when you're saving the world, maybe focus on saving the world.
No, I thought that was great. Now that could be it's
good.
Could be an answer.
It's a good walk back of Man of Steel.
That could be an answer to some criticism about him not doing enough in Man of Steel to help people.
No, like my criticism. Yeah, no doubt.
It didn't. For me, it really worked. Like him jumping off to help Flash and him cutting away where Flash is like saving the people in the truck and he's got like a whole building full of people. I thought that was one of the, like, the Superman look to the Flash in slow-mo where he's fighting them, and that scene where he's carrying the building. Those were big moments in my showing. Like, everybody was like, what? Or clapping or laughing, like, at those two moments when Superman has the building and when he looks over.
After a while, I didn't give a crap about that little family.
I really enjoyed the play between Batman and Diana. I thought that, especially when they're talking about, like, her in terms of what she disappeared for
so long,
and how her growth of like leading people and like the way she's talking to Cyborg about like, you got to step out of yourself and you got to come help, you got to do something. It's almost like she's talking to herself. So I thought her growth as a character was there. And
one thing I didn't think that was like, I didn't realize was, I thought could have an idea that could have been driven home better was that, but like Batman was willing to sacrifice his life in this film. Yeah. And I didn't feel like that.
Yeah, it didn't matter. Like when he was like
driven home.
Yeah.
Much.
Whenever he took off in the car.
That whole thing about the sound and stuff like that, that was kind of set up a few times earlier in the movie.
Yeah.
And then, the payoff, like the setup, his actual plan, because that's the thing about Batman in Justice League. His thing is he's the planner. And their execution of his plan is
the schemer.
He's the one that sees the millions of different possibilities and kind of figures out how to beat Darkseid. I mean,
if there's a 1% chance.
I'm just thinking like of the comics, it's like War Zone or something like that, where all the Justice League is captured except for Batman, and Darkseid has captured them all, and he's basically written off Batman, and Superman is like, you have underestimated, like, he is the most dangerous person on this planet, including me.
Yeah.
And Darkseid's like, whatever, he's just a human being. He's just immortal. And then Batman totally owns Darkseid.
Yeah.
With his intellect, with his thoughts. And it's just like, no, you don't understand. He's so smart. You're screwed because of that. And I didn't really get that in this movie. I guess we're moving, because I agree with you guys all on the positives. I don't have any other added positives to this. All mine start to going negative afterwards. So I agree to all those. But one of the things that I did not like was that, he just like drives off. And then I'm like, okay, so I guess he's sacrificing himself, even though he hasn't really like set that up. And then...
But the other thing is, because he's Batman, he can't die. Like, so I never felt like his life was in danger, except for like Aquaman explicitly told me, that you're trying to kill yourself. And I was like, he's trying to make up he's trying to be the sacrifice that the Man of Steel
and that was.
Like
after the fact, that was like, he was like, and if it wasn't for her, we wouldn't have come save you. I was like, well, what did she say? She said like, come on guys, let's get into the fight, where you were going to do that anyway. So I don't really understand.
Well, I felt like they were foreshadowing that he was going to have to try to sacrifice himself throughout the whole movie a little bit, but they just didn't pay it off. I mean, there's a scene at the beginning where he's talking to Alfred, Bruce and Alfred, and Bruce says something like, Clark was more of a human than I ever was, and like the way he was talked, it was like, okay, we're setting up for me. And I was like, man, are we setting up maybe for him to die? And then like, okay, then here comes Dick Grayson taking over the Batman mantle for the Batman movie.
Well, no.
Oh yeah.
That's
what they're going to do.
But one of the things that I really was hoping that they were going to do, and just, it's a structural thing, and they do this like all the time in the Justice League comics and also in the cartoons and stuff like that. It's like, but Batman does not usually jump to the sacrifice as his first choice.
It's like a last resort.
It's a last resort thing. It's like the plan has gone wrong and I have no other choice but that. That's a smarter move than...
I just keep thinking of all the other times where he sacrificed someone else.
What was that Final Crisis where Darkseid Darkseid did kill Batman with his.
It is. Well, he didn't kill him. He sent him back in time.
Well, with the time it was like he's dead. No, you're thinking of the right one. And then and it was like Road to Batman or whatever.
Yeah, but the idea though is just like Batman always has a plan, and then if that plan goes sideways, then that's when he would sacrifice himself. But for him to be like, all right, first thing I got to do, sacrifice myself.
You're right.
But this whole movie, I got problems with Batman because as Richards is a Superman fanatic, I am a Batman fanatic, and
you can add Batman in there. I mean, those were my two.
Okay. All right. Well, let's go to the cons.
Hey, one last good thing that I want to mention is that Batman's been doing this for 20 years. So he's got. It was cool to see these like crazy machines that he's developed, like the Nightcrawler, over time that would only exist after being Batman for 20 years.
Yeah. And the other last positive thing I was going to mention was the first credit scene where they're doing the Flash and Superman race. Now the scene itself, between the dialogue between them, was like whatever. But I thought that like
watch the Justice League. Watch that episode.
Well, let me say it. I thought that. Let me say. I thought that the scene itself kind of fell flat in terms of the interaction between the two. Although you could tell that Henry Cavill was enjoying playing Superman, and that was the Superman we were getting. Yeah. But like when at the end, when they took off and it froze, and it was like the Flash coming towards the screen and Superman coming towards the screen, I was ready to like see more. I was like ready to see. All right, I want to see Superman again. This Superman again.
Yeah, I just wish it wasn't that freeze frame. I wish it was like a wide shot and you just saw two blurs going because going back to the visual effects, it just looked so fake and just so bad.
That's one thing that I've.
What was up with that weird Flash run at the end?
And that's the thing. The one thing as we transition into our negatives. I don't think they've ever figured out a good way to make the Flash run like because that weird run I don't think that
was a VFX thing. I think that was a choice. No, I think that was like a director's choice. Like this is how he needs to move for some reason, like to help like sell his character more or like he's just like enjoying being the Flash or something. I don't know. But it was weird.
Like he's an Olympic speed skater.
Yeah, it was weird. I didn't like it.
That is what it kind of looked like. It looked like speed skating versus.
But I can understand that they didn't want it to feel just how the TV show is doing it. They maybe wanted to separate it a little bit, and I can understand it separating it a little bit. But
you have like the X-Men, the Quicksilver, and Fox's version as well as Marvel's version. But just like
and that's another thing.
Super speed a lot.
Really well done super speed.
Really well done
motion version of this, which is like Zack Snyder's
twice.
Yeah, but I mean, just like the one from Fox, the one from
Time in a Bottle. Yeah,
that one is
Days of Future Past.
Both of them. The Apocalypse one was pretty good too.
Even Apocalypse is good.
That's the best scene in the movie.
Days of Future Past, like that's the first one, and that's the one where we're like, oh my goodness, this is like
and they
amazing.
set the bar.
Yeah,
like Fox set the bar.
High.
Yeah.
So DC is trying to do something different. So I applaud them for that. I like the electricity part of it.
Yeah, that was great.
Think that the actor kind of floaty, ice skating, speed skating.
I didn't care for this version of the Flash. I didn't care for it, and Flash is one of my favorite characters. I didn't care. They keep blurring the line between Barry Allen and Wally West a lot, and I don't care for that. I want Barry Allen or I want Wally West. If they want to make him the jokey guy, he's Wally West. Just like make him the speedster that's jokey.
I don't care what his name is. It still didn't work.
No, it didn't matter what his name is, but in terms of his story, they're obviously leaning just like the TV show did. His father's in prison. Like, okay, obviously Barry Allen has the better backstory, but he's not. He's kind of like like Hal Jordan was just like Hal Jordan. He was just the Green Lantern, but Kyle Rayner came in and he was like he was like a design guy, so his creations were off the wall, and he had different character personality. He actually had a personality, but like Barry Allen was always kind of just the Flash. He never really had like a stick out personality like Batman or Superman in terms of, but Wally West did. He was the funny kind of a little more fun. But
didn't they do that? Now, which one was in like the Justice League cartoon?
That was Wally. Yeah.
Oh, was it? Oh, okay.
Yeah, see, and I guess that's I've never read a Flash comic. I've only done Justice League, the cartoon. That's the only way I've seen this.
I couldn't tell that. Yeah,
for me,
I would never know.
This Flash hit, and I thought that it worked. I thought he was one of my more. I enjoyed his performance probably more than most in this ensemble. I liked this Flash.
I thought that Aquaman, it didn't matter that he was there. I hate to say it, but like
Aquaman was for the woman in front of me and the woman behind me that swooned when he took off his shirt the first time. I seriously, the woman
I did
in
too.
front of me went, "Oh my!" and I saw her wave herself, and then a woman behind me went. I was like, "Okay, DC, well played. You just made money."
Take Aquaman out of the movie. If you took him out of the movie, there would be no like great character moment or no great action moment that wasn't represented in some other way, like there or great purpose for why he had to be there. But you take like one of the other characters out of the team out, and you would be missing something somewhere, whether it's a small thing or a big thing. And that's how I felt about his character. Like he was okay. Like obviously I hope that they do something great with the Aquaman movie, and he has character and all this stuff.
Yeah, I mean, they kind of set some stuff up, but I mean, even the Atlantean battle was a fraction of the coolness of the Amazons. Like,
yes,
just the
absolutely.
Amazons felt like fleshed out. It was like a real thing. The Atlanteans got it felt like there was 3 people in the room, like, guarding the mother cube, versus the Amazons just, had
did you guys really
in there
really feel like most of the movie, for me, most of the movie felt like just exposition. The whole first act was just like, you could have had someone voicing it over. Well, here we are in Themyscira, and Steppenwolf's going to try to get the mother box because they're holding it.
Meanwhile.
Yeah. So like
the Legion of Doom.
Yeah, we'll get to that
soon. Yeah.
But I felt like that's how I felt. Like it was just a bunch of scenes that it felt like there was a great big movie out there that was all these things were working together, and someone just came through and cut a bunch of stuff out and smashed scenes together. Now, I don't know if the first thing I said where there was a great movie out there actually existed, but that's how this thing felt.
Well, and when in terms of editing, there's two basic things that you're looking for in terms of rhythm. And one of those is the rhythm of the scene. That, okay, does all the cuts make sense from the beginning of the scene to the end of the scene? Does everything work in there? But then also you have to figure out the arcs of each act. Okay, does this scene lead into the next scene, so that it's an ebb and flow, so that by the time you finish the movie, you don't feel it. You don't feel this weird, it
just
feel
happened.
them switching the gears, as you're driving. You want it to ebb and flow so that at the end of it, you just feel like, oh, that was a good story. And this one, you felt every time they shifted gears. And
totally.
And a lot of times movies have either problems, and not just this movie, but other movies have problems with you. Typically, they either have a problem in their scenes have problems in them, but the overarching of the movie is okay, or the overarching part is a problem, but the scenes are okay. Like Batman versus Superman has a lot of that, where individual scenes are okay from a technical structural sense, but the overarching pacing of the movie is all over the place. This movie had problems in both of those, where the overarching part was a problem, but plus in scenes were issues.
I don't know how much that had to do with the whole Joss Whedon's Snyder thing, like in terms of what was there and what they wanted to change afterward and then like added in to make it lighter or brighter or change the story. But maybe we can put in the show notes, Wyatt, a link I'm going to post up on the show notes, but maybe we can do it for the Legion to see. It's just
the rundown. That'd be helpful too.
A forum post that someone that has some insider information, whether they were a VFX guy or somewhere in the studio, has posted a breakdown of the film and kind of put in where, what Joss Whedon was responsible for and what Zack Snyder was responsible for. And he even goes into some things that were cut. He even goes into some things that like James Wan did with the Aquaman stuff to help in the movie. Because I think some of the stuff they were shooting on Aquaman, they would get stuff in like, hey, you need to shoot this for Justice League. Just very small things, though. But this is, I mean, it's a lengthy list. It kind of goes through the whole movie step by step and puts.
And we don't know, like, this guy could be a VFX guy and actually have relevant data that's true, or it could be some guy that watched it 5 times in the theater and went, this is what I believe.
One of the things that though makes me believe it is true is that he talked about some deleted scenes, and one of the specific deleted scenes was if you guys remember from the trailer, there's like a shot of the Flash like pushing his finger through glass. Like he's not in a costume. And he says that was from a deleted scene where the Flash saves Iris West from getting hit by a car. And that scene was taken out. And now a couple of days after this was posted, or a day after, that deleted scene showed up on the net, leaked. And it is exactly how this guy describes it. So it makes me think that there's some truth to this. And there's a couple other people that have come out and stated some things about the film too, and have referenced some things that have since come to light that makes their statements kind of are backed up. So I think that, not either it was this guy or another guy I read that was talking about he, worked on the movie and the VFX and he was like, look, we work on these movies, but we're just as big of fans as the rest of you guys out there. We want these things to be good. And he's like, imagine if you're a fan of these characters as you are, but you have to, as your job, do something you fundamentally disagree with the character. Like you're working on a VFX shot, like frame by frame, 3-second shot that takes you like a month to do. And every day you're just like, why the F am I doing this? This is terrible. This is not who this character should be or whatever. And I think that's a pretty interesting thing to do, because that's where superhero movies, I think, are a lot different than any other kind of movie movies that are based on properties that are fan beloved, that you can have people that are just the working stiffs in the movie industry that are getting paid to do their job, and they hate what they're having to do to the characters that they love. And I thought, God, what would I do in that situation if I was hired to work on this movie? And I mean, how could I not speak up like, this isn't how Batman
this is not how it should be.
Batman should not say, oh, something's definitely bleeding. Like, that's not Batman. That is maybe the Flash. That is maybe Wally West. God, I mean, but I don't know what I would do. You guys know me. I would speak up. I'd be like, why the hell are you doing this?
And then you would be asked to turn in your badge.
Totally. I would be escorted off the
leave the lot.
Yeah.
Damn it, Joss Whedon. What are you doing? Josh.
Now, I think that going back to this list, I do think that in terms of the stuff that Whedon added, it does feel like fundamentally 2 different pictures. And sometimes it's just a little line here or there that does work in a scene, but sometimes it's a whole scene that's edited next to some other tonally shifted scenes. And it just feels so different to me that I would have loved to either seen what Zack Snyder was gonna do with it, or
either Zack Snyder's or Joss
like,
Whedon's, but not this.
Those guys are both, their tones are just so all over. I mean, they're almost complete polar opposites of each other in so many ways. So it's really difficult to mash those two together and create something that's cohesive and it also stays true to the character. Now, like that, like something's bleeding. That line didn't like bug me very as much. Maybe because I
bothered me.
Yeah,
maybe because
that's stupid.
Look at Justice League, the television show, the cartoon.
Batman doesn't complain. He doesn't complain about being Batman like out loud like that. He might say something to Alfred, like, but most of the time he's like, I'm failing. This happened because I couldn't stop it. But one of the things I was really excited to talk to you guys about that I've read a little bit online on some forums about people are rumbling about it was, did you guys get any sense based on, okay, it felt like a lot of the scenes in this, when they would reference something that happened in like Batman v Superman, or they would basically be saying something about heroes or whatever, like specifically the whole little montage at the end that like Lois Lane is voicing over. That felt like a straight up reference to say, hey, fans, we know you didn't like the previous movies or some of the previous movies, but you know, here the heroes have always been here. Like, I just felt like that was an indirect, like everything she was saying, the dark times, they come and go, and then the light hat or whatever the hell she was saying about dark and light. It felt like it was like meta. It felt like it was commenting.
I couldn't tell you what she said in that because I had tuned out at that point of the entire thing, because that whole end montage, I have a note here, is like end montage feels not like an ending. And then also it feels just because it just stops. Yeah. And then you're just kind of sitting there and like, well, that was odd. You know, there's not a, I was almost looking for that scene that they have at the end of all the Avengers movies, you know, like Captain America's talking to Iron Man. He's like, you know, here's the phone, call me if you need me, kind of thing. It's like setting it up that there's going to be a next adventure.
He gave us the signal.
Right. Look, I made a clever look up in the sky reference and cut.
Although Super Clark pulling across his shirt, that was great. That was like why wasn't that in like, why wasn't that in Man of Steel? Come on. But one of the things I was going to say is that talking about this Zack Snyder, Joss Whedon things that were lost and things that like should have been carried over so that they made sense in terms of the previous movie, was that the nightmare sequence, the nightmare dream sequence from BVS
doesn't make sense.
And like the Flash,
well, which one? Okay, so like the time travel one?
Yeah, well, there's the nightmare dream sequence, and then there's like the Flash thing where he's like, am I too early?
Oh, we're too early. You have to save her.
Lois
blah,
is
blah,
the key. And then, so there's a lot of divisiveness going on online about like,
because that doesn't have anything to do with this movie.
Well, no, it doesn't. It's never referenced. But some fan theories out there think that basically what it's in reference to was that, okay, in order for Steppenwolf to come to Earth, Superman had to die because that's what started it. Like that's at least what the movie explains. When Superman died, they were like, okay, now it's time to go to Earth because there's no Kryptonian.
But there wasn't a Kryptonian like 40 years earlier. Why didn't they come
Unless there was 20,000 years ago.
I don't know. But look, that's what I'm telling you, that's what the movie explained.
I know. That's what the movie says.
But it makes no darn sense because there's a huge time period where there's no Kryptonian on
Earth. But what I'm getting at,
or is there?
What I'm getting at is that some fans out there think that, okay, so in order for that to happen, Superman, the dream sequence that he had where he saw the Omega symbol and Superman was like the bad guy, was that the dream sequence that he saw was a future vision, as if
from an alternate timeline.
Yes, an alternate timeline, that if
the darkest timeline,
if Batman didn't bring back Superman with the mother boxes and have Lois come in as the big guns, as they say in the movie, to remind him who he actually is, help him remember who he is.
Oh, you think that actually happened?
That,
I mean, I guess it did.
That what would have happened is that Superman died, and that when that Steppenwolf would have been resurrected, Steppenwolf would have resurrected Superman, and he would have been an agent of Darkseid.
Oh,
and that the Flash going back in time was that Bruce Wayne got it all confused, that got everything confused in BVS, and that this vision was showing what was for sure going to happen if he just let Superman continue on as he is now.
Okay, that is a big stretch.
It is, but
I mean, now that all kind of lines up now that you say that, but just watching the movie, I would not have put those
I wouldn't have either
together.
But I think it would have been interesting to see the Zack Snyder vision for how that was supposed to be rectified.
I still think it can happen.
Flashpoint.
Here's one of my, well, and we're not even there yet, but let me talk about one of the things I didn't like about this movie. So I didn't like a lot of things about this movie, but I mean, none of the jokes landed. Everything was just kind of mediocre. The CG was garbage. But there were some specific things I didn't like. One of them that I didn't like is that we're constantly referencing Darkseid, and we never actually see Darkseid. Like, at least
or even
the
see
other
what he can do. Like we've never seen, we didn't get like a flashback to like a planet that had been destroyed by Darkseid.
Yeah, totally,
or we didn't even get
like that,
or a planet that had been taken over by Steppenwolf previously.
Well, we got that a little bit, but just like in close-ups of Steppenwolf or medium shots of Steppenwolf. Like, you never saw, like, out of all the wide shots with cranes, he never shot a wide shot of cranes of a world taken over by Steppenwolf.
Now, this guy on this list says that there was supposed to be a shot when Steppenwolf gets back in the boom tube at the very end, that the Justice League is all standing there and they look in the boom tube and you see Darkseid, and you see a shot, then a close up of him, and like you there's like a little, foreshadowing and showing you who the big bad is.
That was another thing, okay, so they don't show Darkseid like they do the Thanos in the Avengers, and that really pissed me off, especially with 2 end credit scenes, like no sign of Darkseid. The other thing that bothered me was that this movie was originally going to be 2 movies. And so I wonder if all that future nonsense isn't in reference to when Darkseid actually shows up and maybe stuff really does go wrong. So all this fan theory might just be trying to piece together puzzles that haven't been put out yet.
Yeah. Well,
and then also, isn't that also going to be a big issue? Because really, whenever Darkseid comes into the story, isn't it going to be very similar to this story, where you have a big bad come and then the Justice League have to bound together and then fight them, and it's,
I don't know.
That was one of the things that.
What else can they do with them that they didn't do in this with Steppenwolf? I hope
that was my thing. I was just like, I don't know what they're gonna bring. It would be interesting to see what
Green Lantern is the only thing that they
really
add,
hope that if they actually put Darkseid on the screen and he has to have a little one-on-one time with Superman, that they use that scene from the Justice League cartoon.
I was thinking one of that this morning,
where he's like, "This is an opportunity for me to cut loose. I'm always having to watch how hard I hit somebody."
Except for that first time.
Yeah.
Except for Man of Steel.
And Superman he's like, now what you're getting to see here is an opportunity for me to let loose or something. And then he just demolishes Darkseid. Like Darkseid.
Let's see how powerful I really am.
That's something to say, is that I think that if you where I think this movie fails the biggest, and I like a lot of things about it, or I like the things I've said. All right, where I think
you can determine if that's a lot or not
yourself. But I think where the buck stops is that still this film or any of the ones before it have not been able to capture anything close to any of the countless cartoon episodes of the Justice League that have existed over the years, or the DC animated directed like DVD movies. Like some of those movies like do what the things we have problems with, like in this movie, so much better.
Well, that's what we're constantly comparing it to.
Like,
yeah, we're comparing it to,
and that's
all the
yes,
Justice
and I
League
think
episodes.
that's like we're expecting for it to be like a live action version of some of those, and it's like, come on, guys, just watch, just
do that.
watch.
And it has,
Just do that.
It's funny because it has, like, you see glimpses of it. And I'm like, why didn't you guys just, if you just went a little bit more here or a little bit more there, you would have that. But instead, you do these weird, I don't know, it's just some weird choices.
So
yeah.
one of the other things I'd like to complain about, which, you know, like I said, I didn't really like a lot of it, but the things I want to complain about, I've chosen. And one of the things that really bothered me was, if you saw Wonder Woman, the movie, Wonder Woman was so tastefully shot. Like, what I was really impressed about the movie Wonder Woman was that every camera angle, every shot of Wonder Woman or any of the Amazonians was so respectfully chosen that it wasn't just a bunch of like upskirts and butt shots and like everything that we've come to see from maybe like Black Widow or just any like Catwoman
Yeah, the posters.
or any, like, just all of these movies, previous movies. Every shot in Wonder Woman was carefully chosen, and there was never just a butt shot of, and I walked out of the movie.
There was a lot of butt shots
like,
of Diane.
There was a lot of butt
Diana,
shots in this
yeah.
movie.
No, not only that. Did you guys see the news story that broke a couple of days ago where it showed you the same Amazonian characters from Wonder Woman, and it showed you the shots of them from Justice League?
Is it
And the
costumes?
costumes are, you know,
Because I did notice like two pieces that
like
I was
now,
like, that
now
doesn't
they're
make
basically
sense.
like wearing like bras and panties, whereas before they were like wearing
Yeah.
armor. Like,
And that is the difference between Patty Jenkins directing a movie and Zack Snyder and or Josh Whedon.
now I don't know. No, well, see, that's the thing. I don't think Joss Whedon could come in and be like, all right, we're changing all the costumes on the Amazonians.
But I think Zack Snyder might.
Well, no, I know.
think Zack Snyder would have come in and be like, yeah, no, two pieces. Yeah.
No, I think he
Yeah.
could, but I'm saying
Bras and
that
panties, let's
in
go.
the time period that Joss was brought in, I don't think he could say we need to go back and
he
reshoot
couldn't have
all
been
of
like,
it.
all right, let's redesign all this. Let's rebuild art, get art department in here, get wardrobe in here. We're redoing all this. Yeah, no, he was like, look, I got hired to punch this script up and to make this as good as I can. And this
But
is
I
where
did. But I do think that if you look at some of the marketing, like the promotional shots of like the team together with Superman in it, that suit on those shots is not as bright as the one we see in the picture. So that's why I think that, like, when I say like a lot of the shots of Superman in this movie
They
have
toned
the
it up.
mustache
Yeah.
gate thing on it, because they reshot like almost all of his stuff. Because
that could have also been something that they did in the color grading. They could have punched up that suit very easily.
And heck, it's all CG
What I'm
anyway.
saying,
It's just,
I'm saying that was done in the reshoots. Whether it was that decision to punch up his suit was done in the reshoots, because the marketing materials that were done months before
Was darker. Yeah.
It fit into that tone. But I think that for the most part, I feel like the Joss Whedon stuff was a step in the right direction in terms of some of the characters. It didn't seem to fit so much into the world that was created by this movie, but there is a fan petition now to see, which I was for just a
It'll
complete
happen. You'll get the-
only Snyder version. Like, bring him back
Like
in
the-
and have him edit the movie and put his takes back in it, which I thought
more mustache gate.
yeah, I thought, geez, that really? But apparently there is also going to be an extended cut of the movie because one of the VFX guy says that, if you guys remember, I mentioned that scene where Barry saves Iris. And now
She was totally cut out of this
actress
movie,
that
yeah.
was cast as Iris, Kirstie Clemens, was cast for The Flash, and then they brought her into this to do a scene. Well, she was attached to one of the previous directors, like worked with him before on, I think, Dope or whatever. And so when he left the project, this guy's saying that she may or may not be Iris now, so that the VFX company is actually taking her out of that scene and putting a different girl in that he just saves a random girl now. And that is
so
work
much
that
of this
being
is
done for
done-
the extended or ultimate edition, which I think this movie maybe could deserve more so than Batman v Superman, because Batman v Superman is like extended versions, like 3.5 hours long or something, where this movie was just like a 2-hour movie, but it felt longer because of the way it was paced.
In this movie, I feel like the mantra was just move, keep it moving, keep it moving, because the cuts,
I don't know. Sometimes it felt
really, I felt like it just kept cutting and cutting and cutting and moving.
Oh yeah, it does that
cutting
too.
around, because like I have a note. There's whenever Superman has returned, he's back from the dead. They're having the conversation with him in the cornfield with Lois, and then they make comments like, "You called Mom," and then we see Martha drive up, and it's in Kenneth's favorite crane wide shots. Then it cuts to a loose medium of Martha, cut to a a medium of Clark, then them running together, but then it goes back to the extreme wide.
Dude, I thought the same thing, and I was like,
another wide, and then it goes into the close-up, and I'm like, you did 4 cuts when that's a tracking shot. That's like you stay on Martha, you stay on that face to seeing her something. Like, why would you have the technocrane?
As a parent, that was the one scene where I was like, oh yeah, it kind of touched me for a second. Like you thought your child was gone forever, and they're back.
Yeah,
like,
exactly.
I was waiting for that emotional crescendo, and then
it never happened.
They cut out to extreme wide, and I was like, holy crap, they're gonna cut it out. Why would they cut it out? Like, this is a great moment for Martha. Like, we had this scene with her and Lois at the beginning, and all the scenes after he died. Like, why did they do that?
The acting I can't imagine that the acting was so bad that they decided to cut away from it. So my thinking is
Mustache Gate.
No, my thinking that there was dialogue there that they cut out for time, because this movie was always about just get us through this scene, make it shorter,
that's true,
make it faster. Let's go, 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 go. And yeah, there were some points that felt really short, but or like it felt like it extended. But I was watching that cut, and I was just like, man, they are cutting the fire out of this thing. They're cutting emotional scenes like it's action scenes. It's just like they're cutting everything the same way, and the pacing. And I think that again helps in hurting the pacing. And then also the fact that going, like Richard, you were saying, like, this doesn't necessarily fall in the tastefully selection of shots, but I also noticed that there was a lot of inserts of definitely green screen inserts of just people, like reaction shots of, especially of like Diana, of like, all right, give me a little smirk, like a little smile, like you approve.
Right.
And they would
Barry looking around.
And they just felt so out of place. Like, oh, we need something here.
I think to speak to that is that one of the posts I read about the VFX guys on this that I linked, it was either that one or another one. He said that basically the couple of scenes that were reshoot only. Okay, the scene with Aquaman sitting on the rope that is a complete reshoot scene. And the scene where they all go to like the Flash
in the Batcave.
Well, no, but they all go to the Batcave, and that's where some of those cut-ins are. And
some of them are a weird, odd, like just off the other angle of the original shot.
But
I was like, well, that's obviously cut in.
But no. What I'm getting at is not that those cut-ins were reshoots, that the whole scenes were reshoots. And that because of the actors' schedules, they couldn't all be there at the same time. So specifically like Gal Gadot's stuff, this guy says that they shot the wide shots and the whole scene with a stand-in. And then months later, after she was done with Wonder Woman press tour, they shot her in her costume against green screen and inserted her into the scenes.
See, that makes sense, because whenever he sits on that rope on the lasso and he like gets up and you barely see the lasso come into frame. And I was like, why didn't you guys like do like a 2-shot or at least a little bit wider so you see like reorientate us and show the lasso?
It's because they couldn't all be there. Like the shot at the end where they're all standing there, where they're all standing like on something like, oh, we did it.
Yeah.
Apparently that was like a super composite. They were all shot separately, like at different times because of their schedule. I even remember thinking, I don't think that's Ben Affleck. I think that's another guy in a bat suit. Like it doesn't look like him.
And like what bothered me was like, I went back afterwards. I was comparing this to say The Dark Knight, and like The Dark Knight had sets. I mean, it had sets.
Well, they shot on location.
You were in the
Well,
you had bat caves. You had like his new bat cave with, that was underground, or like these places existed. And this whole movie, everything was CG. The bad guy was CG. All like
I think that they did build a lot, but not for reshoots.
CG.
I think the reshoots changed so much that, those sets were already gone. They did build the Batcave for BVS. I saw a special feature where they like built it, and they built a lot of these places. But like when it came time for the reshoots, like, they didn't exist anymore.
BVS, yeah, but this movie,
they spent
no.
a lot of time on a troop carrier on a plane for quite a bit of this.
That the billionaire built himself.
I will say, I want to get back to talking about Superman, though. I mean, did you guys feel like I did about how, like, when he came into the battle and he was like, I forget, he said something like, I like truth, I like justice.
Yeah, I'm a big fan of truth.
I'm a big
justice.
fan of, and then the whole thing where, him and Cyborg are pulling in the thing apart, and then he's like, oh, I'd rather be dead. And for a second, I was like, man, would Superman make that joke? But then I just didn't care.
Yeah, it was weird.
I just didn't care because I was like,
another joke that didn't land.
I thought that because at least it's like, it's fun. At least it's
fun.
Like it's a release of tension. And I wish that they had made it a little. Well, I even like the setup.
Yeah,
is like
Batman complaining about bleeding is a release of tension too.
I maintain that I think this movie would have been better if like as soon as it opened, Batman's trying to like get everything going to resurrect Superman, and like because I thought the movie was infinitely better once like the Superman was in it.
I agree with that, or I could see where you're going with that, because the whole resurrecting Superman thing, one, it's the contrivance that they come up with of like figuring out that the box could
and then the heist style thing.
Yeah, like that one, it feels way too rushed because it feels like 5 minutes. It's like they make this plan and then they execute it. So I'm not a big about that. Now I want to go back to like the quips or the Batman quips and stuff like that. In Justice League though, Batman is different than in whenever he's just being Batman. Like they write it differently, it's acted differently. So I give them a little bit more latitude. In terms of Superman's quips and stuff like that, I thought that at least at the end, at least he's having fun. At least
that's how I felt.
Like there's something to that versus just more brooding, more I don't want to be here kind of thing.
This is the first time I was like, Henry Cavill, yes, hey, this is Superman right now.
Yeah,
great.
Yeah, you could actually be Superman. Yeah. Can we talk about the bat suit? Is this like the worst bat suit?
Well, it's not the worst. It is not the worst bat suit. But there was a weird decision made when he's like, right after that, like, I'm definitely bleeding scene, and he's walking around in like
the Under
a
Armour,
rubbery suit.
the Under Armour version of the suit, which is
why are we showing this? I much prefer Christian Bale's armor.
He should have just been walking around with his shirt off, showing off. Because I thought that we were going to do, he's going to pull off his shirt and like he was just going to be like scarred up and decimated.
Probably Ben Affleck did not get into good enough shape that he's like, all right, I'm gonna take my shirt. Like he's in good shape,
for BVS. He did for BVS, but not this.
But if you talk to like people that personal trainers like that do like get actors in shape for that, they have dates that they set. It's like, okay, on the 31st of this month, you're gonna do your shirtless scene. Okay, we will work to get you an optimal position.
That was probably a reshoot
just
anyway
for that. And, yeah, exactly. Yeah, but the deal with Ben Affleck's physique, like he is so broad chested, and like, I mean, he's definitely a fit guy, but unlike Christian Bale, who is super lean whenever he put the suit on, because that suit adds extra bulk to you.
Yeah,
This Batman gets such big bulk, it just looks wrong to me.
There was a shot when they were going into the place where the hostages are being held, like the big tube, and there's the broken bridge, and there's a shot where it shows like how deep it is, and Ben Affleck's walking out in the bat suit, and it just like the angle, it just looked like a big rubber suit. Like the muscle, but like I felt like in BVS, it maybe was a different suit or something's different. He looked a little leaner.
Sometimes I was like, why doesn't he put that suit back on? You're fighting Steppenwolf. Maybe put on some armor.
I think that these suits are just like the alien, the xenomorph from like the Alien movies, where if you shot it wide with a lot of light on it, it looks like a big dude in a stupid rubber suit. But if you shoot it just right, it looks terrifying. And I think the bat suit is probably the same way. You shoot it in certain angles, and if he moves in a certain way, it looks great. And sometimes like there was one shot where like he got up and it almost, I was like, was that the only take that you guys had of him getting up? Because he didn't look elegant. It didn't look like a martial artist or somebody that has trained their body to do this. It looked like a stuntman kind of fumbling around on his first take to get up, and the suit just didn't really like move right.
Well, I liked the suit from Batman v Superman. Like
I liked it because it looked more cloth. It looked like
leathery.
A fabric.
It looked
didn't
like
have goggles.
rubber.
Like I don't know what Zack Snyder's thing about goggles, but those goggles do not look like they fit the cowl.
Well, also
they bugged the fire out of me.
I do like this Batman's version. Like the cape feels like it has like this, like at least in Batman v Superman it did. Maybe a little bit in this one. There's like one shot where I remember seeing the cape. Like it felt like it was like really heavy and leathery weight, and like what the cape kind of should be, I guess, if you need it. Not for how Christian Bale's version was using it, but how maybe this guy was a brawler. Like, I don't know how he could use it, but or why he needs it, but it at least looked cool. In Batman v Superman, it looked like it maybe had a purpose to help him stop bullets, or I don't know, maybe it's Kevlar, who knows?
Yeah. But I mean, I think
see what you're saying.
Such a good job with at least bringing up the color with the Superman costume. I am definitely not a fan of the first shot of the movie because I see vertical cell phone footage. And
why did they do it like that?
Well, the first thing that popped in my mind,
hide the mustache.
Well, the first thing that popped in my mind was like, really, they just did this with Spider-Man: Homecoming.
Yeah,
and that
they did
worked.
it better.
Yeah, they did that immensely better. And that's the thing is like this entire movie has elements that I'm like, oh yeah, I've seen this, and I've seen it done better.
It would have been interesting to start them. I like the idea of them starting the movie on Superman and then going on to like, okay, now this is the world without him, like the little montage. But it should have been like something different, like either showing another scene that took place at an earlier time when he was alive of him saving people, or like doing all the things that people are saying that like, oh, he was a beacon. Oh, he did all these great things. Well, in the other movies, we were so caught up in the plot of those movies and what was going on with the characters. We never got to see Superman do any of those things. So maybe it would have been great to show some of that.
I think that what they were trying to do was, show that he is a role model that people like looked up to, and also that he had some humanity to him. It's just that this felt like something that they were, well, how do we do that? Oh, well, let's have some kids run up to him and we'll do it on a cell phone and it'll be all great. And it's just kind of like, guys, there's like a movie that came out. Like it just felt really like that was the last thing that they saw. So they're like, yeah, that worked, so let's do it. And I'm like, but that worked because it informed the audience about the character and about where he was, and it also brought us up to speed, and it just did it again better. Yeah, but let me ask you guys, the first scene, real scene of the movie where we have Batman on the rooftop.
Yeah.
which I love the first shot, and that's I was really worried after the cell phone movie, and I was like, oh my goodness, this is are we doing a found footage movie of superheroes?
Cloverfield.
Then we cut to that one, and The Rock focuses Batman. He's just like a gargoyle on the wall. I was like,
I enjoyed that.
Cool. I loved all that, but I have a question. So this guy shoots at him. So this guy is definitely a criminal. This wasn't somebody.
They just let him go, and he was using him as bait.
At the end of it, he just totally like lets him go, and I was just like, what?
Batman ain't got time for that.
Yeah, really. It was like, what? Like
He's got parademons to take care of.
Isn't that essentially what he does with the Joker all the time?
He doesn't.
Just let him go.
This wild in the city. Like he gives him to the authorities.
This is the game that they play. This is the dance.
But that entire scene, that end of that scene, like all the dialogue felt really
it was weird.
The fact that he let him go, I'm like, what are you doing? What, like, even if he tied him up and this guy was monologuing to him while he was tying him up, like that would have been fine. But the fact that like I don't know.
Well, I think what they were going for is to set up the thing at the end, obviously, where like the parademons like sense fear, and that's how they know to go and find some.
I get all that. That's fine. It's just like, why did Batman let the criminal get away?
No, it would have been better had like
uses a gun, which is kind of a big deal for Batman.
It would have been better had Batman been like fighting the guy. And like, obviously Batman gets the upper hand, and instead of like using him as bait for the parademon, he's just doing what he does. And here comes the parademon and just like demolishes this dude. And all of a sudden now there's two parademons.
What was Batman doing? Was Batman stalking the parademon, or was this guy just happened to come across it, or was he tracking this dude?
I can't answer that.
Right. Well, and I don't think the movie can answer that, because the movie is telling me that Batman is tracking this criminal who so happens to then be close by to a parademon. Like that's kind of my
What'd you guys think about
the taste in my mouth?
Going back to it, the scene where Superman's fighting the Justice League. I mean, did you guys think that was pretty solid?
No, I thought that whole thing was really awkward and weird, but
really, I
like the Flash part.
The CGI. I like the part with Wonder Woman where she's got the rope and everything, and I really enjoyed the part where he's got Batman by the neck, and it's like kind of a I remember you. I remember Batman. I remember BVS. I remember
I just wish that there was a little bit more of a, like, the boxes influencing him, or just something to be like, why is he going crazy?
Or why is Cyborg doing what he's doing? Or why is anybody?
That was the thing. It was just, there was a lot of mystery, and nobody is giving me anything.
Based on this movie and everything we said about it, are you guys, excited to see the movies that are going to come out? Or like Aquaman's the only one that's for sure announced. But like there's, rumors of Flash, Wonder Woman 2, that's right. But there's like rumors of a Flashpoint, a possible Cyborg. Well, I'm talking about the ones that are in this movie. There's a possible Cyborg movie coming out.
Well, I don't know. Like, if you look at the box office, it underperformed terribly.
I don't think it paid for that mustache.
No, I mean, it didn't. It underperformed compared to all the other movies, and it underperformed compared
to what they were estimating.
Yeah, about like 20 million.
And it's doing okay overseas, so that'll probably be its saving grace. But it's not doing the amount of money that they need.
I'm not talking about money here. Let's say they just forget money for a second. Are you guys excited to see, or would you be willing to see the next movies that come out with these characters that you've seen from this movie?
I just want Flashpoint to reboot this thing. I'm done.
Yeah, I've seen Man of Steel. Like, I've seen Batman v Superman. I've seen like fool me once, fool me twice, fool me three times. Like, how many times do I have to be disappointed by these movies?
You do Flashpoint and you kill everybody off, and you recast everybody, redo everything except for Wonder Woman. except for Wonder Woman, and you make Wonder Woman like how to get to Earth Prime or
I don't know
Earth
if I
One
want to
or
see
whatever.
anybody else as Superman now. I mean, I really like the look of this guy as Superman.
I like Henry
and now
Cavill.
I think that they've lined up a little bit more with the character and how he's represented and how he was a little, happier to be Superman as Superman. I would be greatly willing to see more Superman stuff, whether that's Superman in the Flashpoint or Superman in someone else's movie or Man of Steel 2, which they've now come out and said there's no really big plan right now for one. But I would say that Wonder Woman still for me and Superman were the most successful characters, the ones that we had in this one. And probably the Flash followed third for it, even though I didn't really care for him. But Flashpoint's such a cool event that I'd be excited to see that.
I don't know, but see, the thing about Flashpoint is like the reason that I think Flash works is because he's the comic relief, and he's kind of a little bit of the audience in that. Can he be the whole movie?
Well, but Flashpoint isn't that. I mean, it is really him and like other characters like in the Flashpoint. Thomas Wayne's Batman, who's even
but he's the thread. He has to carry quite a bit of the story. It revolves around the Flash and about him trying to save his mother.
Right, but there's always in the Flashpoint in the Flashpoint universe, like what the Amazons and the Atlanteans were at war. So I mean, all these characters are in it. So I would really think of Flashpoint not so much as a Flash movie, but more along the lines of a Justice League movie, where it's going to have all these characters in it interacting. So I guess that he would kind of work in the same aspect that he did here, except he'd be a little more in the forefront.
I want to bring up the fact that like J.K. Simmons is totally underused, but I'm going to skip that.
Is he? Yeah.
Well, he's like in like 3 scenes, and I'm just like, you did nothing.
It could have been anybody.
You did nothing.
It could have been anybody.
Exactly.
Absolutely.
But we need to talk about the post scene.
Yes, we do.
Or the end of. We already kind of talked about the race, so we don't need to talk about that, or do we? Do we have anything else to say about the race?
No.
All right, so let's go to the very
Why did they shoot it on a cloudy day? Why? That's what I have to say. It's like completely overcast, looks like it's about to rain, and like shooting I mean, I guess they lined it all up, but like when the rest of the movie is green screen, why not?
Oh, that was probably all green screen too. Don't give me. So let's go. So at the end of it, we get our favorite version of Lex Luthor ever, escaping from. I say that sarcastically.
Well, it turns out Kevin Spacey really is Lex Luthor. So,
oh jeez. So anyway, Lex Luthor has escaped, and now he and Deathstroke are meeting, and they are talking about their own legion. Richard?
A league of their own. A league of their. Did he say a league of their own?
He did say a league of their own.
There's no crying in baseball.
That's right. I don't care. I was disappointed by both of these end credits. I mean, the one with Superman and the Flash were fine. I was looking for something with Darkseid. I didn't care about Lex Luthor in the scene. I don't care about.
It should have been Darkseid. It should have been Darkseid.
And Deathstroke
it should have been Darkseid.
Like a cosplay.
He looks like cosplay. I mean, it just looks. It's just. I was disappointed. I was just disappointed.
I don't agree with that. I don't think he looks like cosplay. I think that he looks
good cosplay, but
he looks like what's his face from Arrow.
No. Whoa, wait. Are you talking about the suit or
Deathstroke.
The suit or the
it looks super campy.
I don't agree with that. I think that like there's a Twitter thing that Ben Affleck released that was like obviously shot on the day they were shooting this, and I thought, man, it looks way better than they did in Arrow. Like it looks movie budget. And I think that a lot of that has to do with like the lighting. I don't know, but what I didn't like about the way he looked was like, I know Slade Wilson's like supposed to have like white hair and like a white goatee, but couldn't we have just taken we've taken so much creative license with everything else. Like, couldn't we have just like let him, like, did they have to dye his hair and
or
bleach it or whatever?
Go gray
like
versus being
it's
platinum white.
It's I forget the guy's name, Joe.
Yeah,
the guy that played Flash Thompson in the Raimi Spider-Man movies.
Wouldn't want to fight me.
Yeah,
neither.
whatever. But that guy has like a look. I mean, and he already has like the goatee and the beard, and it worked. You didn't need to like make him Slade Wilson with the like gray beard. That's what bothered me about it. Like, he took off his mask, and at first I was like, I didn't even recognize the actor, and I know what that guy looks like. I was like, is that the same guy? Is that they really like made his beard look weird.
And I know Deadpool is like a spoof of Deathstroke the Terminator, but they're going to really have an issue when Deadpool Wade Wilson is way more recognizable a name, and I mean, I guess it already is that way in the comics, than Slade Wilson, the Deathstroke, the Terminator. Like,
well, and then
they're just doing it all over again.
The theory is that Deathstroke would be the villain in the standalone Batman movie. Like, that's the rumor,
right? Yeah, and so that's I guess.
I saw a rumor today
Jesse Eisenberg came back. And what I have to say about that is, okay, his performance in this after credits scene was probably better than his entire BVS performance. And
it was short.
Hey, dude, dial it down. Lay off the whole Max Landis.
If I'm not mistaken, based on my eagle-eyed perceptions, it looked like they made him bick his head again. Like, no bald cap for him. Like he was.
So Henry Cavill.
But kudos to him.
So we see where people are in the pecking order, because Henry Cavill gets millions of dollars to remove the hair from his upper lip. But someone
like
else,
10-second scene.
For 10 seconds, you have to shave.
They'll hold him down and shave his head.
We won't even give you a bald cap.
Kudos to Jesse Eisenberg for having the balls to like, you want me in for an after credits scene? Totally.
They didn't even tell him to. He did it on his own and just walked in. They're like, oh.
So do you guys think that the part with the other guy in the cell that was like you thought was Luther for a minute, and him the way he was laughing, do you guys think that was an allusion to the Joker?
Oh, jeez.
I mean, it
stabbed me in the head.
Could they be?
I almost wondered who that actor was.
Could they be setting this up as like these are now the villains of Suicide Squad 2, like the legion of all these villains put together versus all these other villains put together, but they're good villains versus the bad villains?
Oh, that sounds awful.
Yeah, but I just don't care. I don't care about Suicide. I don't care about Suicide Squad. I don't care about Justice League. Man, I'm in a bad place right now.
Like I said, I enjoyed the retread on Superman so much and Wonder Woman in this film that it left those two things alone left a good taste in my mouth. I
need to go rewatch Wonder Woman.
All right. Well, final thoughts, Richard. I think you've maybe given your final thoughts.
What can I say that I haven't already said? Huge disappointment.
All right, Kenneth, your final thoughts.
Wow. I'm going to maintain what I said in this spoiler-free thing. If you liked Man of Steel and you liked BVS, this is probably your cup of tea either way. All the things we talked about, getting into the minutia of the characters and the details on the pacing probably aren't going to bother you. You're just going to, if you enjoy those other two movies, you're probably going to enjoy this one. If you hated those other movies, you might like that they tried to make Superman better like I did.
And to be honest, I mean, my wife found it entertaining. I'm the one that's, the stickler for all this.
But you don't like a lot of things.
That's on me. Apparently you're right.
You had problems with Thor Ragnarok. You didn't like Korg.
You're right. Cause, we'll have to wait for that episode, but you apparently you have me pegged.
Well, we're going to have to leave it at that, gentlemen, for this week.
Wait, Wyatt, what's your takeaway?
My takeaway is that it's okay. It's not the worst thing.
Oh,
it's
good.
not the worst thing in the world, but it's definitely
how generic of us that we have one that's too hot, one that's too cold, and one that's just right.
I never said it was like the best. I didn't say anything like of that.
He really has.
I'm just saying.
I would be interested to see some other cut of the
I
movie.
think we have two mehs and and somebody that is stormed out of the theater.
Yeah, totally.
Kenneth, are you a man?
I'm a meh on everything but Wonder Woman and Superman in this. That's how I feel.
Yeah. And I'm a meh across the board. I'm like, all right.
Kenneth, unite the two.
Oh yeah, you know what I'm saying.
I love bringing that up, by the way. Unite the seven. Anyways, they must be referring
The Seven Seas.
Yeah. Well, they must be referring to a Green Lantern that is not in this movie.
There was a Green Lantern.
Well, there are Green
There
Lanterns.
was a Green Lantern,
so that's confirmed.
but he wasn't
that's
united in this.
He had nothing
Yeah.
to do with this.
Well, that was another thing that's on that list, you guys, is that originally before the race scene, that the after credit scene that was shot during original production was a green.
Why are we reshooting?
Yeah.
After credits.
Yeah, well, that race scene, that was Mustache Gate. That the original post-credit scene was Ben Affleck as Bruce Wayne waking up in his lake house. There's a green light everywhere, and Tomar Ray and Kilowog are there outside of Wayne Manor. I was like, wait, what?
What?
Why
give him a ring?
Yeah, why are they going to visit Bruce Wayne?
They should. They always should have.
No.
In my opinion. Yeah. I mean, here's the thing. Two people on Earth who should have gotten the ring before Hal Jordan. Bruce Wayne, Kal-El.
But they already were established.
Actually, Guy Gardner in the canon, Guy Gardner was supposed to get the ring, but for some reason, like the ring, Hal Jordan was closer.
I mean, but now we're talking about like a Thor's hammer. Who's worthy?
Yeah, right. And but you know what? I think in this universe, you could argue that Batman is not worthy to wear
Hell no.
a Green Lantern ring. But gentlemen, hold on. All right. Well, we'll have to table this for another day because
that's fine.
This episode's going long. Richard
is going
has gone off the rails long, so we can't get into even more extended universe. Richard, where can the Legion find us?
All right, you can find us at legionofdads.com. You can email us your questions at legionofdads@gmail.com. Like us on Facebook. Follow us on Twitter. Subscribe on YouTube or wherever you get your podcasts.
And we like to end each show with a dad joke, our last laugh. Who has a joke for me this week?
I'm on joke duty.
Sweet. Kenneth, what joke do you have for us this week?
All right, guys. What's the difference between a hippo and a Zippo?
Ooh, I kind of like this one. What's the difference between a hippo and a Zippo?
One's really heavy. The other's a little lighter.
Oh. All right, I'm writing that one down. I'm keeping that one. I bet that would work great with a 4-year-old. Somebody will be like, "What's a Zippo?"
You're doing real good with these dad jokes.
Well, thank you.
Well, that's the show for this week. Thank you, Legion.
Legion out.